And welcome everybody. It's Monday, May 29th, 2023, or Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. And this is the Open Hearted Practice Group. I'm Jim Mansky. I haven't met you before. I'm really glad that you're here. And Jory may be joining us, but she had an adventure earlier this morning. Everything's fine. She just went to the chiropractor, got a little adjustment. And so she's integrating that adjustment in the moment. We'll see if she joins us or not. Today's topic is deepening empathy, and we've been kind of working our way through the basics of NVC, getting ready to do some deep practice. Today we'll be doing empathic practice. And so we're gradually building a skill set or reviewing a skill set for some of you who have been doing NVC for a long time. So we'll do that in a few minutes. And we also will be practicing self-connection, which is like the working with nonviolent communication as an internal process just with yourself. And then we'll have an opportunity to also practice honesty and empathy, which is the speaking and the listening part of nonviolent communication. Usually we have somewhere between 30 and 40 people who come to these groups. Today is a holiday in the United States, so that might keep some people might be off enjoying the holiday today. And we'll find out who comes. Whoever's supposed to be here is the right people, as I learned from Harrison Owen, founder of something called Open Space Systems. So I'm really glad to be here. Let me just check, see if there's anything else I want to share with you before we start the class, the self-connection exercise. And just a lot of gratitude. I always get here about 15 minutes early, and just to hang out and connect with people in an informal way. And I enjoyed the conversation that we had today with the folks who gathered here early. I notice also I miss Jory when she's not here. I like having her sit next to me. I like hearing her voice, hearing how she might have a different way of expressing something about NVC that might be helpful for some people. And I hear the pitter-patter of her feet upstairs, and I'm always curious what that might mean. Yeah. So, hi Rena, welcome. Hi Sarah Joy. Hi Purva. Hi Rob. So let's practice a little self-connection. Self-connection basically just means that we're utilizing the skills and consciousness of NVC to connect with our own needs. Also known as self-empathy, self-compassion. So if you're comfortable, you can just close your eyes and rest for a minute. Imagining some of you are just starting your day in India or Asia, already being very busy. For others of you, it might be towards the afternoon or the evening. Just allow your eyes to close and your brain to just rest in a moment of silence. And if your brain's anything like mine, even though maybe I stopped talking and maybe you're in a particularly quiet place, I didn't notice very much silence. I have quite an inner dialogue that often is going. Just notice that. Sometimes we talk to ourselves. Might also notice feelings coming and going. Emotions, sensations. Maybe you're becoming aware of needs. All this seems to kind of happen like a parade, is my experience. They just kind of flow in and they flow out. So for the next couple of minutes, we will slow down the process, or try to anyway, by focusing on just one thing at a time. And these four things that we'll focus on are called the four components of nonviolent communication. So those of you who have been here before, this will be quite familiar to you. If it's your first time, maybe it'll be brand new. And so before we do those four components, we start with why. Why do you want to do this exercise? Why are you in this class? What's your intention for being here? So you can just ask that question of yourself. I encourage you to trust the answer that you hear. And if your eyes are closed, then that has the benefit of making it easier to hear. More of your brain is available to just listen, which is the skill that we're going to be primarily working with today, skills around listening. So just listen to the world around you. Of course, you can hear the sound of my voice when I'm talking. Sometimes people say they can hear the bird song in the background where we live. Maybe there's other sounds in your environment that you can hear. Just listen. And as you listen to the world, you may become aware of thinking. That's okay. That's what human beings do. We're thinking creatures, at least some of the time. Thoughts might be in the form of images that you have. Could be in the form of memory. Might be an internal dialogue. Might even be more than one voice, like a conversation between two different parts of you. You're aware of just listening, whether it's the world or your own mind. This is the skill of observing. Nobody has to teach you how to do this. No effort is required. It's natural for human beings to observe the world and their minds. And then you can shift your focus slightly to your body and notice sensations in your body. Maybe there's an ache or a pain. Maybe there's a tingle, a cramp, a buzz, feeling of fullness or emptiness in your belly. Just notice any sensations in your body. If you'd like, you can also name them for yourself. You may also be aware of emotions. So these sensations and emotions is what we call feelings in nonviolent communication. It's different than what we were paying attention to a moment ago, which was thinking or observing. They're all different parts of our experience. But this is when you're paying attention to the body, which is an important part of practicing NVC, nonviolent communication. Then these feelings, they're like pointers. They point us towards our needs. So we move from observing to feeling, these first two components, and then focusing on needs. What's important to you right now is another way of putting it. What are you needing? Sometimes when people are new to nonviolent communication, they don't have the words to describe their needs yet. So I'll just make a few guesses. Maybe you're here and interested in community of other people practicing NVC. Maybe it's about belonging to a community. Maybe it's about contribution, something you want to give here. Maybe it's about learning, personal growth, fun. What's it about for you? And what can you do about it? These are your needs. You have power as a human being. What might support you in getting your needs met? What could you ask of yourself or somebody else? That's what we call requesting in NVC. Asking for what we need. Asking for what we sense might support us in getting our needs met. So in this case, you can see if there's any requests that you have of yourself to get the most out of our time together. So then to sum it up, we started with getting clear on our intention. Then we practice self-empathy by looking at what we're observing, feeling, needing, and requesting. So from this place, we're more likely to be ready to connect with other human beings. And so to practice that, we'll go to some small groups. And this particular small group will be 13 minutes long, a little bit longer than last week because people were saying, I want more time, but we'll have 2 groups today. So you'll get a chance to connect with people at least twice. What do you do in the small group? You just be a human being. You just talk to each other. Maybe you introduce each other and say what your name is, where you're calling from. And then your response to this exercise. How do you feel about being here? What needs are alive in you? What request did you come up with? So just a chance to talk about your own experience. Everybody have about 3 minutes or so in the small group, 3 or 4 minutes. So you need to keep track of your own time because just makes it easier to so that everybody has a chance to share something if someone is like a timekeeper. So if you're willing to bring your Apple Watch or your iPhone and just say, okay, I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, that can be very helpful for everybody else. All right, so I will open the groups now, and when the groups are over, you don't need to do anything to come back. You can just sit on your hands. You'll automatically come back here after the final minute. There'll be a countdown timer down to from 12 minutes to 0 in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and then you end up with 1 minute extra to finish up your conversation. Okay, see you back here in about 13 minutes. Hi, Isabel, I see you here. I'm putting you in a group. Let's see here. Here you go. Aloha, welcome back. Though you didn't go anywhere, now you're back. You seem to be back here with me. Glad to see you back here, see new faces, and yeah, it's just such a rich sense of community for me to see you all. I was somebody asked me the other day about taking one of our videos and making Japanese subtitles for it, and so I went and I looked at the video part of it anyway, and to see which one it was, and it was like from 2020, and many of you were there. I could see you on the screen, and I thought, wow, how cool that I've gotten to know you over the last 3 years. So I'm glad about that. Is there anybody who would like to share anything about what went on for you in this little small group connection? Chance to practice honesty and empathy. Yeah, Isabel, please.
Thank you, Jim. It's been a while since I raised my hand as the first one. I always desire to remove that antsiness time, when nobody's sort of, we're all wondering, and save time. So what just happened in my room was I've been on that as a professional facilitator. There is always a part of me that wants to share the time and make sure that everybody gets an equal airtime. And then there's a part of me that wants to listen in. And so since last week, this is my pursuit. And again, today, as I was trying to do that, I felt that I have violated somebody else, who was engaged in speaking, and I wanted to listen to that. And then when I went quiet, I was mourning. And as opposed to last week, I decided to self-empathize, that I wanted to contribute, that I wanted to be fair. That was my desire. And when I had that and I was given a chance to share that, I felt that my energy was perhaps a little bit better than spiky. And the person shared that it didn't affect her as much. So I'm really grateful to share that. And I'm still sitting in that, not knowing how to deal with it yet, because it always is such a struggle inside me, how not to act like I'm chopping somebody.
Yeah.
Tongue.
Because you have such a need for respect and consideration and care. You really want everybody's voice to be heard, including your own. And so sometimes you feel a little bit torn about how to navigate that.
Not so much my own, but to be shared with everyone in the room so that nobody feels left out. That's so important to me.
Yeah, so that nobody's left out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Purva.
So I was in the room with Sarah and Jay, and for me, the feeling is in coming in these sessions is always, I think, very close to magical, because every time I've second guessed it or said, "Oh, I was sleepy, I'm tired, let me not join," and then I've joined, I just always some magic happens. So I feel like in our sharing, it was resonated a lot with what Sarah was saying about being tired and having fatigue. And, our requests to ourselves were for ease. So that it just felt very calming. And then some conversation came up and Sarah said, spoke about parenting groups on NVC and to go up and look up at CNVC. And I suddenly found so much ease because I probably want to do that with my mother and me. And on the other hand, Jay also said that, he was trying to still figure what he was feeling, but there was a beautiful painting in his background. And I asked him about the artist, and I teach folk and tribal art. So then I realized he told me about a new native tribe, which I had not heard about, and that painting. So I feel like at the end of the whole sharing, there is a celebration that just a little tiny span of time and whatever magic happened. So thank you again. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jay and Ju.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for naming the magic. There's something magical about that intention to connect and the whatever you guys are co-creating in these small groups around living that desire to connect and be with one another. It's the world that I want to live in. Okay, and Jean Marie.
I think for me, in that small group, I'm always grateful for whoever shows up in that small group. But this time, because I heard about listening, listening as one of the skills, I noticed that, number one, we didn't have a timekeeper, and that worked out because every one of us was respectful of each one's time. What I got from the group was listening with a choice of words. Somebody picked up on the language choice, choosing. And the same person said, what struck her also was the now, present to the now. Now that was deep listening. And I appreciated that. And for me, it spoke a lot about my own values as well. It was it resonated with me, and how important in deep listening that I can listen to another one's value of choice and the now. So the power of deep listening was what I was reaffirmed today.
Oh, great. Well, that's our whole theme for today, the power of deep listening. And it's actually shared power. And so it really goes to the whole, one of the whole essential understandings for me about nonviolent communication is about how we learn to share power with each other. Anybody else want to share anything before we launch into a quick review of what we've been doing, especially to support those who might be here for the first time? And then practice, and then another opportunity to be with one another in small groups. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share? Anybody been waiting for the last minute to finally share? Yeah, I see Siva is raising her flag. I mean, her hand. Go ahead, Siva.
Right, my flag, and then Rob. You put me in a room with Kay. She just sent me a private message that her piano is calling to her and she's going to leave. So please adjust my partnership with that knowledge in your head.
Okay, thanks for letting me know, Siva. And Rob.
Yeah, our group, we were fine with less time. We were very efficient somehow with our bam, 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 our needs, and a lot of them coincided. So, yeah. But you can't please everybody. That's NVC, right?
Right, you win some and
Or
you lose
that's
some.
life.
That's right. That's life. What's too long for somebody
Yeah,
might be
right.
not long enough for somebody else.
Right, right.
Thanks, Rob. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Anybody else waiting to say anything? Nina, welcome to the call. I'm really glad you're here. People are welcome to come anytime. Even if you came at 5 minutes before the class ended and you just stopped in to say hello, I'd be so glad to see you. I don't have any rules about when people show up. I've had enough. You're welcome. We have no need for rules. We've had enough rules in our life. Okay, so let me share my screen with you then, and we'll launch into a brief, hopefully brief review, and then a chance to practice. So our topic today is deepening empathy. And this is, we've been building a container, so to speak, over the month of May, getting us ready to deepen into more practice in the month of June. So we're kind of setting the stage by building some skills that make it possible to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. So this goes to what we call the zero step. Marshall Rosenberg called it spiritual clarity. Other trainers call it different things. And so quickly, the element of this, of what we call the zero step, is this intention to just get really clear on why we're going to be using nonviolent communication in the first place. That we're doing it to create a quality of connection, not a quality of correction. We're not using NVC just to get our way. We're trying to figure out how we can enter into some sense of mutuality so that everybody gets their needs met. And to do that, we place our attention on what's actually happening right now. We try to let go of the past, let go of the future, and stay really present right here and right now. And the way we do that is where we focus our attention. And the shortcut way is to just focus on what's going on in your body and what's going on in your heart. So that's feelings and needs. Feelings are the information that we're getting from our body. Needs are the information we're getting from our heart about what's going on right now. And when we do all that, the effect of that is an openness to outcome. We get curious about what's going on in the world. We get curious about what's going on in the other person. We get curious about what can make life more wonderful from now on, which is that world of compassionate giving and receiving that we were talking about. And then to actually practice NVC, we use three main strategies: self-connection, empathy, and honesty. I don't have to teach you any of that stuff because you already know it. You're a human being. You were born with the capacity to do all three of these things, and you're doing it all the time, way more than you probably give yourself credit for. Even right now, you're aware of what's going on in your body. You're aware of what's going on in the world, and you're aware of what's going on in your heart. And you're aware of what's going on in your mind. Sometimes it gets a little bit complicated to keep track. There's so much going on, but your brain is perfectly designed to be able to track those elements of nonviolent communication: observing, feeling, needing, and requesting. And so when we do all that, then we can just practice. When we do that 0 step, we're ready to do self-connection, empathy, and honesty. But sometimes we notice that we're not open to outcome. We just want to have our way. Or we might notice that we're stuck in the past. We're chewing about something that happened yesterday or 30 years ago or whatever. We're just ruminating about it. Or maybe we have some demands coming up about what happens next. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It just means that we need self-empathy. So it just means that, and you can review the class where we focused on self-empathy a couple weeks ago. But in essence, it's three things that we're doing. We're noticing what's going on in our body and in our heart. We're naming it for ourselves. And then we're just allowing it to happen. We stop resisting whatever's going on. And that helps to bring us back into 0. So let's practice. Last week we started adding 2 other skills, empathy and gratitude. We'll build on that today as we enter into a deeper discussion and practice of empathy. And so to do that, we're going to practice. So it'd be great if you have something to write on. You can use your device, your computer or your phone or your iPad or whatever you got if you want to. Or you can write on a piece of paper. You can just do it in your head too, of course, but it seems to help people practice if they actually get it outside of their brain and out onto a piece of paper or a device. And so first, we're just going to check right now. Check your 0. And the invitation will be to do this continuously throughout the practice that we're about to do. So just check right now. Are you present? If you can hear the sound of my voice, you're present. Do you have an intention to connect? In this case, you're going to be connecting first with yourself. If you don't want to do that, then you can maybe get off the call and go take a walk or watch some TV or whatever you want to do. But we're going to spend about the next 10, 15 minutes connecting with ourselves. So do you have that intention to share in that? And then as you live into that, you notice you're open to outcome. In this case, are you open to learning what the practice is and seeing how it might impact you or affect you? If so, you can keep going. We'll keep going here. If not, you can pause to practice those skills of self-empathy, noticing, naming, and allowing. And so you can return to this question throughout our practice together. If you notice that you get triggered or something like that, then you can go back to self-empathy, forget the rest of the exercise. So the first step is to practice an observation. Think of a moment when you experience empathic connection with somebody, whatever that means to you. A time when you experienced empathic connection with somebody? Could be when you're giving empathy, so to speak, or when you're receiving empathy. But there's a sense of empathic connection. If those words don't make sense to you, maybe you could just focus on a time when you had the experience that someone else was really listening to you deeply. That'd be a great observation to write down. A time when someone was listening to you deeply. And then describe that moment to yourself in writing. Describe it, avoiding the use of evaluation. No need for opinion or moral judgment during this step. Just describe it. Tell yourself a brief story about this moment. I can give you a quick example if that's helpful. I recommend having practice buddies and empathy buddies. And so I was recently today actually, with an empathy buddy, friend, another trainer. And I was talking about something going on in my life that was painful, emotionally painful. And I had the sense that this person was with me. Even though we were on Zoom, I really had this sense that they were listening to me. I noticed their eye contact. I noticed that they were, I couldn't tell that they were distracted by anything else. So even though we were on the computer, just had a sense that they were present through their eye contact and their words. So now you get to write down an observation of a time when someone was in empathic connection with you. Third, what needs of yours were fed in that moment of connection? What needs of yours were fed in that moment of connection? Here's a needs chart that can be helpful for some of you. You don't have to, if you have other words that aren't on this list, please trust your own words. What needs of yours were fed by this moment of empathic connection? For me, it was about presence, growth, understanding, compassion, support. Put it into the chat If you like, it might inspire other people to see what your needs are. Support, trust. I'm going to put this slide back up. Someone wanted to see the steps again. That was the first couple of questions. Basically, it's the observation step. Think of a moment when you experience empathic connection and describe it, avoiding the use of evaluation. Support, trust. First, it's just to think of something and then to describe it. Those are the first two parts. And then to connect to the needs that were satisfied, like being seen, kindness, nourishment, loving connection, focus, presence, compassion, loving kindness. Understanding, connection, learning, empowerment. I'm just going to pause the slideshow for just a second. See if anybody's needing some help identifying their needs. Anybody who doesn't have a sense of being connected to their needs yet. Okay, not seeing any hands. We'll keep going. So next step. Just did the needs part. Oops, wrong direction. So you can intuit the next one. Right now, remembering this, how do you feel? So now you go back to the body, your body. You bring back to mind receiving this moment of empathic connection. You're connected to the needs that were fed by that. And now, what do you notice in your body? Just first you notice your body and you name the experience that you notice. It could be physical sensations, could be emotions. Stay attuned to your own body. Give yourself an opportunity to feel your feelings. Maybe it's gratitude, appreciation, joy, something else. Whatever your authentic experience is fine. And you're savoring feelings and needs as you're doing this. This is a really important part. Just really be present. This is your living presence. And then consider your power. What did you do to help make this happen? What did you do to help make this happen? In my case, I showed up for a predetermined appointment. And I asked for my friend to listen to me. So I did at least two things. I also expressed what was alive in me as vulnerably as I was able to in the moment. So what did you do to help make it possible for you to experience this sense of empathic connection with somebody? I love that Janet wrote her answer in the chat. She knocked on a stranger's door and asked for help. You want to put something in the chat that might support other people? That would help me to know what's going on for you, increase my sense of connection. So anybody who wants to share a sentence or two in the chat, I'm really glad to see that. I'm happy I spoke up, and without guilt. I was honest and authentic. I showed up without judgment. It's another way of describing the zero step. I called my friend. And as you realize all this, as you realize the needs that were fed, the feelings that are alive in you now, the power that you had to make it happen for yourself, you can savor all of that. Savoring is extending the pleasure of something that you experience as delightful. Usually it's a word used about food, but I learned to use it from Marshall Rosenberg to talk about feelings and needs. And the final step of this exercise, recognizing all of this being the exercise that we just did and all you've learned from it, how do you feel right now? So again, you return to the body in this moment and notice how you feel. Sometimes it's helpful to close your eyes to notice what's going on in your body. Sometimes it's helpful to bow your head slightly. That's a way we often look down when we want to feel our feelings. It's like a built-in signal in our brain to go to the body. Not everybody's wired up that way, of course, but might help you, especially if you sometimes struggle with noticing your body. So you've all just written a story of a time when you enjoyed an empathic connection with somebody. A story that was obviously meaningful enough for you to remember it and to explore it today. And so now you get a chance to hang out with somebody and talk about it. And this is a chance to now practice empathy and honesty. So let me say just a little bit about how I suggest you practice empathy during the rest of this exercise. Empathy doesn't require any words. So when it's your turn to listen, listen with your body, listen with your heart, listen with your ears, but don't listen with your mouth. Just avoid saying anything. Just practice giving the gift of your presence to the other person. No words required. When it's your turn to be the speaker, you speak from the heart. And you've got a template that you just wrote. You can talk about what happened. You can express the story of the observation. You can talk about the needs that became alive. You can talk about how you feel right now. You can talk about the power that you experienced in getting your needs met in that moment, and so forth. We're going to do this group for 20 minutes. So everybody has 10 minutes. And all of the groups are pairs, except for one. There's one group that's not a pair because we don't have an even number at the moment. So let me just check and make sure that's still true. It's still true. So you guys can split up in that group. You guys can split up your time with about 7 minutes each. So everybody has the experience. Okay. So I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. And I will send a message through the chat when our time is halfway finished. You'll also see a timer in the upper right-hand corner counting down from 20. And then when the group ends, the little group ends after 20 minutes, you will see a 1-minute warning. You don't need to do anything to come back. Just sit on your hands. Avoid the temptation to click the button. See you back here in 20 minutes. Turn the recording back on now as people are returning. All right. This is the part where I get really curious to find out what you learned about empathy. I'm not interested in the content at all of whatever you were just talking about. I'm really interested in the process about what you learned, what you experienced as either the giver, in quotation marks, or the receiver of empathy, whether you were the speaker or the listener. What did you learn? Please raise your hand like Siva did. Love to hear from at least 5 people. And then I'll share a little bit more. Go ahead, Siva.
I'm just curious, when you say empathy, I've heard so many times it's first empathy for yourself and then for empathy for the other person. And is that what you're saying when you say empathy?
I would say that when I use the word empathy, I'm talking about empathy as a relational experience. So I can, and self-empathy is when I'm focusing on myself, but it's really the same thing in a way. It's the same skills. It's paying it. When I talk about empathy, my focus is on the other person. on what they're observing, feeling, needing, and requesting. When I'm talking about self-empathy, I'm talking about what I'm feeling, what I'm needing, what I'm requesting, and what I'm observing. So it's really just a matter of focus. Empathy is about the other person, me focusing on their experience. Self-empathy is about my experience. That's how I use the words.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Jeanette.
Well, I haven't been here in a while, but that's good because it reminds me that just being heard with no comment, no reflection is so powerful. And just saying, I hear you, and just to be able to listen and focus deeply without having to think about any reply is just amazingly can be very profound. So
Profound.
thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's like liberating, isn't it? You can just be present. You don't have to try to fix anything or do anything. You can just be present. And what a gift it is to both.
And
be
it works both ways.
It works both ways. Yes. Thank you, Jeanette. Rob.
Yeah, I know you had said, Deepening Empathy, just, be present. Whoops. Let me see here. Just to be present. Can you see me okay?
Yes, we can see you fine.
Okay. And, but I requested the person I was with to, I used to be in an empathy group a while back, and we always used to do the guesses, the empathy guesses of feelings and needs. And I remember how that would help me focus in. And so I asked her for that, and actually the guess wasn't that much on, but I also remember it just kind of washed over me, and it led me to another kind of a layer off to the side, tangential, and so it was helpful for me to have that dialogue. Sometimes I get lost just talking myself and somebody not responding, not reflecting, not. I actually like the guesses, so
Yeah.
I know you don't really mention the guessing, but I prefer people guessing, and it doesn't have to be accurate because it's just good to lead me in some way, and then I'll check out to see if it hits or not. So
Right on.
yeah.
Yeah. So let me share a little bit about this distinction that you're bringing up before we go to the other hands. So I make a distinction, the same distinction that I got from Marshall, that there's a distinction between empathy and reflection. So here's the quote that really supports me from Marshall. Do not think what you say is empathy. As soon as you think empathy is what you say, we're off target. Empathy is where we connect our attention, our consciousness. It's not what we say out loud. Now, what Marshall is not saying that what we say out loud can't be helpful. It can be profoundly helpful to reflect what another person says. Even if you're just feeding back the words that you heard, if you're making empathy guesses about feelings and needs, that can be extremely helpful. Sympathy might be really helpful. Apology might be really helpful. Advice might be really helpful. All that, though, for me, is honesty. It's not empathy. Whenever I'm opening my mouth, I'm expressing my honesty, even if I'm making a feelings and needs guess. So let's say I was just listening to you, Rob, and you said, it's really helpful for me. So here comes the reflection. What I heard you say, Rob, is it's really helpful for you to receive an empathy guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if I was to put that in classical giraffe and use all four components, it would be honesty. I would say, when I hear Rob say this, I feel a sense of confidence and a little bit of wonder. And so I want to check it out. My need is to check it out and to connect. And so I wonder, Rob, did I guess right in reflecting back that you really enjoy it when you receive an empathy guess? So that's my honesty, but it just gets coded
right
into this reflection, which can be profoundly helpful, and connecting. It's just a little different for
Yeah,
me
yeah.
than empathy. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but somehow, I hope it's not Jackal. I do feel it. I have a better connection when somebody is reflecting back, maybe because I'm not tracking so well what I'm saying or my emotions, or it just really
Yeah.
helps me for a deep dive.
Yes. And so
So
you're
I think
actually,
of it as part of empathy instead. Yeah.
you're pointing out
I think it's
that,
part of yeah, you're saying two things are separate, and I understand that, but then I feel like, God, it's so part of it. It's so integral to my own deep dive. It feels like it is extended empathy somehow, but yeah,
it
it's the
does. It
honesty
does
as well.
because when we get a reflection from somebody, especially a skillful reflection, like if I would say to you, Rob, are you really wanting
Yeah.
some understanding? That getting a reflection can be deeply, deeply supportive of helping you track where you are in the conversation. Right? So if I'm listening to you,
Right.
and I sense that in you, then I might be naturally led to make that kind of a reflection. That's my intuition talking. That's the connection that I'm creating. I get that.
Right.
Well, maybe Rob would really like a reflection here. Or maybe another time I might open my mouth is I get lost. You know, maybe the person is using more words that I can stay connected to, or whatever. The story is meandering, or they seem to be, you know, I have some judgments come up. So then in order to support connection, then I might say, hang on a second, let me see if I'm with you. Is it that you're feeling this because you're needing that? Then that might be, that might contribute to my need for clarity. So sometimes I might reflect to contribute, and sometimes I might reflect to meet my need for clarity. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you asked the question, because now I don't have to go over that slide later. It's much more organic when it comes from you.
No, go over it. I need it again.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, I just want to say it's amazing what happened today. I didn't really feel like to do the practice because what happened with me today, I couldn't focus on the practice. I put an equal mark on my name, thinking that I don't want to share. But then I was with Siva in a group, and she just gave me the amazing empathy to me right there. And I just want to really say thank you, Siva. I don't know how she did it. I felt it's truly not the words she said, it's her heart. Wanted to know me, wanted me to share. And I felt she poured her heart to me. And that gives me love and courage. And she turned my tears to smile.
Oh,
It's just
Wow.
amazing. Thank you.
Wow.
I really don't know how Siva did it. What she said, it's not the most important thing. I really felt her heart, the whole presence being there.
it sounds like you received the great, according to Carl Rogers, you received the greatest gift that one human being can give to another. And that's their full presence. Their full presence. That you
and
really
thank you. I didn't want to do the practice, but then I did a perfect practice. I experienced it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Go ahead, Siva. I figured
I want to respond because I called an empathy buddy. It's not a regular empathy buddy, but just somebody that was willing to answer the phone. And I know she has a some kind of PhD in this kind of geriatric psychology, but she knew through her own skills, practiced professional skills, how to listen. And I'm taking up the time because the impact of paying it forward pays off. So let us all just keep paying it forward, because it does come back to you.
Thank you, Siva, and thank you, Mary. Jay, and then Purva.
Oh, I was paired with somebody who was very good at listening to my story, and especially I noticed that how she reflected back things that I said, and showing understanding and interest. And I found this encouraging, and I felt appreciated. And when it was my turn, I tried to do the same. I'm not as experienced as she is, but that was a good practice session for me.
I'm so glad, Jay. I'm really glad. We can get so much connection accomplished in just 20 minutes. It's just like a miracle. Purva?
Yeah. I'm always amazed at everything that comes out from each session in a very selfish way for me, from listening to everybody. So today I was with Estella, and when she was sharing everything that she was saying, I kept writing it. And one of the things that stayed with me was she said that she could share with a friend and her defenses went down. And I just circled the word defenses because I think it gave me clarity on what was happening every time. I'm a single parent, and I live right now with my daughter, my mother, and my father. And I suddenly, it was like this enlightenment that with all three people in the house, my defenses are always up. And wow, how stressful that is. And whether they get them down or not is a different thing. But if I can just tell myself, can I get my defenses down? It would be so much calmer for me. I mean, my heartbeat is forever running. And then I connected what Estella said to what, apologies, because I think that person is in the session and I forget her name. But if you remember, I think 2 sessions ago, I think it was Janet who said she was trying to train her dog and teach him downstay. And it totally connected for me that I need to tell my defenses downstay. And I will be so much more happier. So thank you so much today, Estella. And I could identify my need very clearly today, that I do not have an empathy buddy, and that I'm going to reach out to the group, NVC group in India, and I need to have an empathy buddy. Otherwise, I'm losing it.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank
wonderful.
you. Thank
That's
you.
a wonderful intention to set for yourself, Purva. I try to do empathy buddy session at least 3 times a week. Sometimes when I'm lucky, twice in one day, like today was a double dose day. Estella.
Hi, hi, Jim.
Hi.
Yes, it was a very powerful practice. And also I have a question, because you were talking with somebody earlier about the difference between self-empathy and empathy. And you said empathy is where we place our attention, that it's a consciousness. experience. It's not so much the reflecting or what you say, but it's more where you place your attention. But right when you said that, I was thinking about what you said earlier about check your zero. Like, are you present? Do you have an intention to connect? And so the concept of ground zero is kind of new for me. And so I was wondering if there's a distinction between intention and attention, because I kind of experience them a little differently. And so I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about that. I think it
Sure.
would be helpful for
Yes,
my need for. Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to do that. So the Latin root for both words is tendere. And tendere is like the same root word for tendon. So it's the thing, and this is the stretching of our consciousness. So intention is when we stretch our consciousness towards our needs, like the answers the question, why do I want to do whatever it is that I want to do? It's the intention. Attention is focused outwardly on the world. I stretch my consciousness out into the world, making observations, making guesses about feelings and needs, making guesses about requests. So it's just which direction that we're flowing our consciousness in. That's how I hold it. Estella, does that make sense to you?
Yes. And then my next question is, wouldn't both of them be helpful in empathy?
Absolutely.
Because
I don't think you can do it without the zero step, either one. You need to get clear on why. So Marshall's advice was something like, before you have an empathy buddy call or something like that, really get clear on what needs are you hoping to meet by having this call. That's the intention piece. Then when you're actually listening, you're stretching your attention towards the observations, feelings, and needs and requests of the other person in the present moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That really gives a lot of context for me around the ground zero, because now I can put it in the rest of the sequence of steps. So that really helps. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Carolyn.
Yes, so definitely a great experience, great exercise. One thing I'm wondering is, my partner and I just listened to each other. We really didn't say much. I spoke for about 10 minutes and she spoke for about 8. And we did say a little afterwards, but so I'm a little bit confused. I thought this was, the experience that I was talking about was where someone was really reflecting, well, not just reflecting back, but very empathically responding to what I had said. And but then my impression was that we were just speaking and the other person listening in this exercise, Jim. So which way was it, or was it both? Whatever.
That was the exercise. The exercise was silent empathy.
Okay.
And next week, we'll work on some reflection skills.
Yeah.
And how we might be able to deepen connection through making some guesses like Rob was talking about, and so forth. And so we will continue to how to deepen even further.
Yeah, well, it was very beautiful just having someone listen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel that that's wonderful empathy, just the silence and the presence of someone.
Yeah.
And actually feeling, in other words, for me, it's sort of like hearing myself in a deeper way.
Yes, that makes so much sense to me, because basically my experience matches yours, that when I'm with, I'm pretty good at self-empathy now because I've been practicing it for a long time. But when Jory's listening to me, or you're listening to me, or Siva's listening to me, or whoever, then it deepens my experience of self-connection, to have that accompaniment with another human being. We human beings, we're not designed to be alone. We're terrible at being alone. Loneliness is killing. Loneliness will kill you faster than cigarettes will kill you. We require connection in order to survive. And so when we get empathy with another person like this, then it has a tendency to settle the activation of your nervous system, bring you down, allow you to more deeply connect to your heart, get clearer on your needs, and so forth. So it really is super, super helpful to do this practice with other people.
Yeah, well, I find it to be beautiful, actually, and it's very lovely to have some.
It's absolutely lovely. We've had the experience once we were in a training in Houston, Texas. This was probably 15 years ago or something like that. And we did this exercise. It was actually the first exercise we did. We did a little self-connection exercise, like we always start with, and then we put people into groups, and we just did it for 5 minutes each. 5 minutes of silent empathy while someone else talks about whatever they want to talk about. It's so open-ended. Then switch. And someone came back and was doing the checkout, and they said, I've been married for 25 years, and I feel closer to this person who just listened to me for 5 minutes than I did to my partner of 25 years, because I never have had that experience before of someone just caring to listen to me without trying to fix me. And so that's the profound gift that you're giving, is you're not doing the things that we often do in our society, which is advice, trying to fix it, trying to cheer somebody up. We're just being present.
So one thing that comes up for me out of this exercise is that, as you know, I've been looking for a group, an MVC group. I don't know, maybe it could be something else, but in this community of Vancouver City. And I haven't come up with anything yet. You know, just through Google. I don't know anyone at this point who's connected to any. There are some mindfulness. I mean, it's completely different. There's a lot of meditation groups, but you know, I think right now anyway, I feel like I'd much rather have an MVC group if possible. But empathy would be a really nice thing to have. Just, you know, the people who are open to doing these things. So
yes, we need to build an empathy system in our whole country, in our whole world. We need it badly.
Yeah, so I'll have to keep looking here.
Yeah, well, I noticed Fernie put something in the chat. She's looking for an empathy buddy. There's a place to start. You can reach out to Fernie, and maybe you can, you have, it only takes 2 to have a group, and you can keep building from there. And,
okay, I don't know.
Yeah. So you can find out. You can just chat privately, or maybe after the end of the call, if you want, I can put you guys together. You can get to know each other and see if you want to set up a time. Monica?
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, you know, the PowerPoint you had up earlier with the 0 step, it was your second slide, I think. Could you put it up one more time, please? Thank you so much. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for dogging for your needs here. Let's see here. Let me find back to the 0 step. I think
it's your second slide from the top.
Here we go.
Yeah,
there.
That one.
This is the 0.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. Purva, let's see. Sarah Joy. Go ahead, Sarah Joy.
Thank you, Jim. I really like this exercise, and I just also want to assure Jay that he was a very good listener and partner in my group. And it's hard as a beginner to catch on to all of these skills, and I have been doing it for several decades. And so I really noticed that he was able to express a lot of feelings and needs, and that was pretty impressive, because I know that he's said that he was pretty much a beginner. So, but I do want to say also, I like the exercise that you chose because I think it's important to have memories or imagine and be able to go back to a time when someone was empathetic in your life. I mean, for me especially, as I age, I feel that seniors, senior citizens, are not treated the same way as I was when I wasn't a senior citizen. And it's wonderful to meet someone, you know, for the first time and have them hold your hand and look in your eyes and not let go of your hand, just keep looking. And it's like I might be the first person because not used to having someone look in my eyes. And you know, and that was my experience that I shared today, and it stays with me. And I actually now I am with that person. It was my first in-person retreat after COVID, and I traveled all the way to Florida for this, and it was a pretty hard journey for me. Um, and um, and I was so glad I did it. I met so many people who I'm still friends with, but now I know them in person, and I'm online with them on a regular basis.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
That's
thank you for that.
wonderful. You're very welcome. Okay, we're gonna wind it up after Pooja. Pooja, go ahead. Oh, Carolyn, is there something else you wanted to say, Carolyn?
I just wanted to say one more thing.
Okay.
So to me, it seems as though the empathy, everybody is talking quite like it's very emotional and seems almost kind of serious, but it could also be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the more you do it, the more fun it would be.
Yes. And you know, you could practice, you can even practice while you're watching TV or listening to the news or watching a movie. You can pick one character to really empathize with. Reading fiction, there's good research that shows that reading fiction increases empathy. So
but I think a real person is better.
A real person is the best, but you know, take it any way you can get it.
Oh, yeah.
Pooja?
Yeah, I had a simple question. So
Okay.
I saw your slide on what is not empathy.
Yeah.
And with the listening part, I feel like I was deeply listening, but how does one know that they're doing it well or they're doing it, you know, the way it's meant to be?
Oh, I thought you said it was a simple question, Pooja.
Did I have to mute
Yeah.
myself?
So it's a knowing, right? And so part of our problem is, and I'm talking about all of us because of the way we've been educated. Part of our problem is that we have stopped trusting ourselves. We've been instead conditioned to trust external authority rather than our own feelings and needs. And so I could never tell you whether you're being empathic or not. Only you know. You can get feedback from your empathy buddy. They can let you know whether they experienced empathy, but that's inside of them. They might even be able to make observations of what helped them. They might even be able to say, when you made eye contact with me, it helped me to feel safer. When you reflected, when you made a feelings and needs guess, it helped me to know that you were with me, and so forth. So those are the two things that I can think of is getting feedback.
Thank you so much.
And trusting yourself. You're welcome. Okay.
Thank you so much. I just have a follow-up to feedback.
Okay.
What if you don't get a positive feedback, and what if the other person receiving empathy is not aware or is not plugged in at the same level of one's listen as the other person's listening?
Yeah. So in other words, if you get feedback that says that, oh no, I don't think you were doing a good job of listening to me, is that what you mean?
Oh no, that they can't really experience the deep listening if that happens. Because they're like in their head and they're, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So now I think I got your question. what can you do? What can you do if you're not getting the quality of listening and empathy that you would like? That's your question. And so you can make a request. You can say something like, just for 3 minutes, dad, mom, partner, kid, whoever it is you're talking about, just for 3 minutes, would you listen to me without saying a word? And then you say whatever you want to say for 3 minutes. And at the end of the 3 minutes, you say to the person, what did you hear was important to me? So you hold them by the hand. You tell them exactly, your request might be different, but you start with this action request. Would you be willing just to listen to me for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 90 seconds, whatever you think you can get away with? And then when you're finished expressing, end on a clear and present request for a reflection. And maybe that
Wonderful.
would help the other person to know what would work for you. Okay, I need to say a couple of things here at the top of the call. Jory and I do all these classes as a gift to the world. We've been very blessed by nonviolent communication and Marshall's work. And so we do this as a way to pay it forward. And we ask for you to donate money to us. And what you might say, well, what do you want that money for? Well, we want that money to support, right now we're raising money to build a school, an NVC, nonviolent communication-based school in Kenya. And we're trying to raise about $5,000 here in the next month or so. I'm very appreciative of the generosity that I've already received from many of you. And so, if you were going to do this practice group like back when Jory and I were doing practice groups in Albuquerque 20 years ago, we asked $20 per class. And so now with inflation, so maybe an MVC class might be $25, $30 these days. So if you have it in you to give that much, we'll make sure that money goes to the school in Kenya, and we'll double it. So if you gave us 25 bucks at the end of today's class, we'll put $25 into the kitty, and we're going to help this school get built in Kenya so they can open by January. So you can give us the money at PayPal. If you want a tax deduction for your donation, then you can give it directly to the Center for Nonviolent Communication. And if you do it that way, then you need to also send me an email so that we know how to match your gift. And so I'll put my email into the chat along with the link to CNVC. So we've raised several $100s already. We've got a ways to go. We've had certified trainer, Samuel was here last week. Kirsten, another certified trainer who's part of the project and a board member of CNVC, is here a couple weeks ago. Next week, another one of the candidates that I'm working with will be here to talk about his experience working with this project. I was so excited. In Kenya, you can build 4 classrooms for $5,000, something like that. You can't even buy, that's just astonishing to me. They're going to use all permaculture materials. It's all going to be designed so that it comes from the earth. It's very organic, doing the least amount of impact. And they're going to be employing local people, not only as building the school, but as teachers. And everybody will be trained in nonviolent communication associated with this project. Very exciting project. So that's all I want to say about that. And then we record all these calls and we put them on YouTube, where we now have over 200 followers, whatever that means. But anyway, you can sign up to be a subscriber on YouTube, and then you'll get a little note when I get around to publishing the calls. They're also on our website. So those 2 links are on the chat right now. And final, 2 more. There's a feedback form. We use your feedback to help us guide the direction of these classes. So just a 4-question feedback form. So if you have the energy at the end of the call to give us some feedback, that would be very, very helpful for us as we continue our planning. And I think that's, mail list. Some of you are here for the first time. So you can join our mail list with this final link. Boom. Okay, that's all that stuff. Mary, is that a fresh hand?
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have time?
I got about 2 minutes, and I want to let people go to other groups, but they're probably just now they're all dying of curiosity what your question is. But go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, my question is how to show empathy in the presence of violence.
How to show empathy in the presence of violence?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's another simple question, right? So you want to go straight for the PhD program, Mary. So so think about it this way. Think of a super minor act of violence. Like let's say, for example, killing a mosquito. I live in Maui. They're coming out at this time of the day. When I walk out my door, they will descend on me. And let's just say that and I'm pretty immune to them after living here for 12 years. They don't even show a mark. But let's just say my body reacts to this attack. I get stabbed by a mosquito and I smack it and I kill it. Why did I do that? What's your guess about what motivated me to kill that mosquito?
You're in need of security?
Yeah. Yeah, great guess. Protection, security. Yeah. So in that case, that act you guessed there's an act of violence that you just took a moment, you considered, and you came up with an empathy guess. In this case, you were able to confirm it because I was here. You made your guess and I could confirm it. If you're empathizing with, I don't know, something you see on the news, all you can do is guess. You're probably not going to get a chance to talk to the perpetrator of the violence. So you'll just be stuck with your guess. But almost always, in my experience, acts of violence, there's two main needs that are alive. One is we act violently towards others when we want empathy. We want somebody else to understand what we went through. And so we think mistakenly that if we inflict pain, then we'll finally get some understanding. It's what Marshall called a tragic expression of the need for empathy. The other thing that motivates violence is we think we're going to contribute to somebody's education. We think we're going to teach them a lesson. That if they feel this pain, then they'll never behave in a particular way again. And then I'll be safer, or the world will be safer, or whatever, right? So we think that violence, especially institutional violence, state violence, is going to teach somebody a lesson. So we punish them. We punish criminals and so forth because we want to educate them. Again, 99 times out of 100, it's a tragic expression of the need for education. It almost never works. People who are punished are more likely to reoffend than people who are not punished. And don't believe me, just Google it. And you'll find all the data. Punishment hardly ever works. How's that for a quick answer for tonight, Mary? Is that satisfying? Give you something to think about?
I still need more answer.
Okay, we'll bring it up again next week. Think about it for a week and see if you get maybe do some journaling about it, and then we'll talk about it because next week we're going to go deeper into empathy. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off now on that happy note. Thanks. I really appreciate the question. Appreciate you all being here. Those of you who are stuck around, I'm going to open up small groups.